when you will ask to a racing driver what is his aim and his target, he will be very always diplomatic. We are here to go very well, and we are trying, of course. But at the end, is the top of the position that you aim and to be the best of the best of the best.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Car Chat podcast. I'm Sam Moores, and with me today I have Luca Betti. Hello.
Hello. Hi to everyone. Hi, Sam. It's a pleasure to be here. So thank you.
Welcome. Can you tell the listeners a little sort of short summary of who you are and what you do?
Okay, well, I'm the founder and the CEO of Chimera Automobili. I was a former driver in a rally championship. So I had the first part of my life that was pretty exciting. And so the adrenaline in my blood was so high that I need to still have more. And so I decided in this second part to continuing and do something really crazy, but so with a lot of passion, and that's it.
Yeah. How did you get into rally?
Well, it's a long story. Of course, it's a family story because my father already was a Italian rally champion with the glorious Lancia Stratos. And so, of course, when I was a kid, I felt the smell of the fuel. And of course, the passion came out in me. Then I was inspired a lot by Ayrton Senna, that for sure was an idol that I had in my young ageness. And then I started 18 to drive, and fortunately I was fast. And after a few years, I was able to be manufacturer rally drivers for Fiat before, then Renault. Then I was a racing driver official for Honda in the Intercontinental Rally Championship. And then I founded in that time Chimera Motorsport, that at the beginning was just a motorsport team. But then I transformed it in an engineering factory, restoring cars. And considering I became from rally and from our region, which is Piemonte, where the Lancia is something that was an incredible racing team. They make us so proud. The connection was very close to restore Lancias, and from that I started the project of Chimera Automobili and Evo 37, and then 38, and going on.
Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit about some of those rally days? Were you predominantly driving a mix of front wheel drive and all wheel drive cars?
Yeah, I drove for the first part of my life. I drove the 2-wheel drive. It was the junior WRC World Rally Championship period. So from 2002, 2006, 7, I drove in the World Rally Championship the junior rally cars. So it was the Super 1600 2-wheel drive cars. And then when I competed in the European Championship in the following year, I drove a four-wheel drive car, the Peugeot in that period, and Ford. And so, yes, I had a great experience with both the traction.
And what were those cars like to race and rally in? Like, I guess they were a bit different, and were there some sort of differences between the two?
Of course. Actually, the four-wheel drive category is the category that is, of course, more competitive in rally for the surface and the less grip that there is in rally respect to the Formula One or circuit race. But I have to say that it was very helpful for me to understand very good all the different aspects of the different categories and understand how they work. And it was very helpful also for my actual life, the technician I can discover. So it's pretty good.
Yeah. Have you got any like particularly memorable, I'm sure you must have loads, like highlights from that period?
Yeah, of course. It was, as I told you, super exciting period. And I had some special moments during my career. For example, I remember once I was in Athens for the Rally Acropolis, one of the rally of the World Rally Championship. And I remember the final of the rally was in a stadium, in a big stadium, the stadium of the previous Olympic game. and there was a circuit in which the drivers challenge each other in a sort of duel. And I was arriving there with my Clio against the official rally cars of Fiat, and with that thrilling challenge, I won at the end. And the spectators, the people was crazy, and I exit out from the car to thanks all these people that was pushing me, and 80,000 people stand up to me. In a sort of moment, huge. It was a very incredible moment, and I felt what maybe a goal bomber can feel during a big match. So it was a huge moment. For just to tell you, the first I had in my memory.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds pretty cool. What do you have, like a particular driving style that you favor? And then, like, did you have to sort of adjust to a certain way to drive those cars quickly?
Well, I always remember my father that said me that you can feel the character of the drivers when you hear they're arriving with how they use the gearbox, the engine, and when you see them pass. So, effectively, I was like in life, always on the limits, because I like living on the edge, And of course, it was something that I always trying to drive the car using a lot of instinct, and not always this is a good thing, because sometimes it is also necessary to apply a lot of technician, and keep the instinct to make the strategy. So, if I have to tell you that in driving and in life, I'm more brain than heart, I can tell you that I'm 99% of heart, not brain.
And then, so you started this company, Chimera Motorsport. Was that also running your rally cars at the time, or working on other cars?
Yeah, it was a quite interesting story, because you have to know that in 2007 I was a former rally driver I was a rally driver for Honda, the official team involved in the time in the European rally, Intercontinental Rally Championship. And I was second drive, because the first drive was Dani Solà. It was a former World Rally Champion junior, and I was the second drive. But at the end of the championship, I won the championship. So I was confirmed, and I had a sort of 3 years contract in Honda. But at the beginning of 2008, I remember I received a call that Honda decided to completely stop all the activities. So they decided to cut all the budget for also the Formula One team. And in that period, Honda sold the Formula One team to Ross Brown, that then won the season with Jason Button and Rubens Barrichello. And so I lost my steering wheels, and I say to myself, okay, what I have to do? I have to keep the contract and taking the salary from Honda, not doing nothing for 3 years. Of what I can do, renounce to that and starting again. So a person with 90% of heart, of course, said, let's go. And in that moment, I was with some sponsor, with some budget, and they say, okay, I will take some cars to drive personally and own the team. And in that moment, I say to myself, I have to keep my road. So going on in my life. And the initial of keeping my road, KMR, represents something that was very similar to Chimera. So a sort of mantra that I told to myself. But in the meantime, it was something that represents for me a challenge and a kind of way to live my life.
And was that an adjustment, like quite a big change to then run and own a team as opposed to just be the driver?
Yeah, it was another big challenge, because basically I started to not just being a particular rally driver as I was, because I always managed myself, but I started to be also a little entrepreneur, having the managing of the commercial side of the motorsport, managing the people. And it was very good, because after just 1 year and a half, I met one manager that knew me before, and he told me, "Oh, and look, I know that you have now a team. I have to manage all the young drivers of the government of Abu Dhabi. And so in that period, I was also manager and motorsport director with my own team of this motorsport program of Abu Dhabi. And then other program like Red Bull, like Peugeot. I managed different program, and in that time I was also involved in the European Rally Championship. So it was a very intense period, but very helpful to understand a lot of dynamics, a lot of things that then I found it very helpful.
Yeah, and then I presume, well, at some point in time, you started to wanted to make your own car, but all of those learnings from all of those stages were very helpful when that came along.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that at the end, life is the amount of the experience you do in your life, and sometimes you have to say that the experience is the amount of the mistakes you do in your life. So I have a lot of I did a lot of mistakes proudly, and these represent the amount of my life and the experience. So it is good at the end.
Yeah. And so at what point in time did you start thinking, this is going great, but like I want to try something really hard, I'm going to make my own car?
I always say that the project Chimera Evo 37 has a label under behind the car, just nearby the rear headlight, and it is written "Authentica Evoluzione." Evolution is a term always used by Lancia to represent the new rally cars, the new cars, and so I felt it was very good to claim with the origin of the car. And when I told authentic, it means that it was a sort of really felt authentic car in order to respect how was the car before. So for that reason, this car is a sort of metaphor. It's a sort of parallel of our life, my life, the life of the guys that participated to this project, and represent a sort of evolution of something that was done during our career. I started to be a driver, then a sort of entrepreneur, and now I lead a brand that build cars. So it represents a challenge to go on in life and explore new chapters of what you can write in your book.
Yeah. And I want to talk about that first car, because I know it's evolved since then. But what were you sort of pitching for? What are you trying to put of yourself into the car, or who's it for? What were you sort of aiming to make?
Well, in the evolution of my life, being a big racing driver and then starting to restore car, I have to be honest that I was quite bored and annoyed to just restore cars. So I always had in my soul a lot of creativity. And I was inspired by the trend of resto mode. So I saw many cars that inspired me to think that restoring cars, in another way, not just a conservative way, but modernizing, was absolutely a very interesting way. And so I started to think to create a sort of resto mod of an Italian car. And in that period, I was working on a Lancia 037 for a Finnish driver that asked me to create him a car for the historical rally championship. And I started to design something different. And that's the way we started with the project.
Okay. And that initial making a historic one, I guess you're trying to fit all of the FIA, is it FIA? Like regulations to hit all of the ones before. And then you're like, but we can change it.
Yeah, exactly. Starting to know correctly all the technical parts, the design, and effectively, when I was restoring this car, I say, it's good, but once they didn't have the technical knowledge, the materials, and everything to do this part or this body or these lines better. Now we have. So what if we can use the modern concept, the modern technology, to do something that previously was already huge, but it missed this new possibility to improve. So it was a matching and a challenge in order to create a sort of time machine using the old concept styles, but apply the modern knowledge and technologies.
And did you try and like? Some people pick like a certain. They go, okay, if you carried on evolving this car, I think Gunther Works, this is what they say. If we kept making that car, like, and you just evolved it, like a 911 type thing, just keep evolving it, and we're trying to make the 2024 version of that car. Or some people go, okay, we'd like to make the best version of that car with the technology, but as if it was still from that time. Like, what was your approach to the final product? What are you sort of? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand. And I come back again to the concept of authentica evoluzione. I mean, if you evolve something, you have to be careful to don't change it. Because at the end, if you want to keep it, the soul and the same object that you are evolving, you have to be very careful to stay on the limits in which the characteristics specifically of the car in this case needs to maintain. And so the name was exactly a sort of a research of a intention of a mood that we apply on what we did. And so effectively, I think that you can evolve a thing, but you have always respect the main guidelines to do it properly. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I guess you're going, I want to keep the same number of cylinders, like, the same sort of engine, maybe similar sort of drivetrain, rear wheel drive. Let's keep it rear wheel drive.
Totally agree. You have to be always, in a way, conservative, but also make evolution and upgrading.
Yeah. And with the sort of technology available and things one can do now, how did you sort of aim for a certain level of performance and maybe refinement or not, or sort of drivability and things, and then sort of design it to that? Or did you go, let's just make it, how much, without going too crazy, can we sort of evolve this and see where we end up?
Well, for sure, when I aim to create a Restomov on an iconic car like the 037, I was looking to find a mix of the characteristic that this car has in the way, and so basically, I started to take a look at how was the performance of the car, and of course, this was a rally car, so I was looking to create a proper performance road use cars, and then also in terms of level of the car. At that time, the 037 was a sort of luxury sport car. So in a way, to respect, I tried to put all the best quality of the materials of Italy, the Alcantara, all the nice instrument that we can add. And so it was a sort of, again, of a respectful job to take back to the life a car that was an iconic for us and needs to be again take a birth to come back.
Yeah. So what did you do? Talk me through some of the sort of parts in terms of like what you evolved. I mean, it's a very cool. I remember when this came, I first saw this, I thought it was such a cool looking car. But like, so what did you do to the engine? Did you sort of take a bunch of like rally learnings?
It was very interesting, the way in which we evolved the engine. As I told you, considering that I started from a historical Group B rally car, I was quite skilled about how it is the engine, how it works, and for sure in the rally world, they needs the spare engine because it is a racing components, and the engine needs to be changed. So it was available on the market, the crank of the old Group B car. And from exactly this, we started all the concept of evolution. So basically, we make a reverse engineering of the engine. We scan it completely. We had this CAD with a point of files on that. And we started to say, okay, now let's think about this engine. So we keep the 4-cylinder, the scheme, the diameters, the measure, but we upgrade with the concept, the modern concept we have. And it was very good and very funny that with Italtecnica Carlo, we asked to Mr. Engineer Lombardi, the designer, the engineer chef of the old engines of Lancia, and we put together them in order to have the young and the old, the experience and the new concept. So they together with my, the stimulation that I give to them, they were able to create this engine that represent effectively a sort of bridge with the old engine of the Lancia 037, just a compressor supercharged with this our Evo 37 engine that has also the turbo. So is this two supercharged of Volumex and turbo, and that is that at the end represent something very particular and cool that people love.
Yeah, when you have a turbocharged, supercharged engine, which I don't feel like you see that many turbocharged, supercharged engines. I know in rally there was lots. Do you run into issues like running that sort of the two together, whether it's reliability or usability or the way the power comes in and that sort of stuff?
You have to know that this solution to add the volumetric supercharged at the lower RPM, adding it the turbo for the high RPM, was a solution that was chosen exactly from Lancia for be competitive against the Audi Quattro, Peugeot 205 Turbo 16. So it was a sort of solution that permit to Lancia to have power in the high RPM, but also, because it's very neat in the rally, torque in the low RPM.
Yeah.
And basically, the supercharger is a sort of anti-lag. So you use the supercharger to have power when the turbo is not performing. And so at that time, you have to imagine in 80s, they didn't have all the electronic and the instrument that actually we have. So of course, it is not easy because you have to power and you have to manage with a system with valves and everything. But now, thanks to the modern technology, we are, of course, able to manage all of this. And the effect is pretty good. And when people drive the car, journalists, clients, customer, or even me, we are so attracted about the result that we can obtain and the motion that this engine gives.
Yeah, and it's a different experience. It's like it's not something you're going to find in other areas.
Totally. The sound is different. Something that you don't find so easily in the market, you know?
Yeah. And with this sort of chassis and the way you wanted it to drive, did you move much suspension? Did you move any suspension points or anything like that, or was it sort of just kind of work on the componentry and things?
Basically, we maintain exactly the same philosophy and approach to all the design of all the aspect of the car in terms of mechanical, body design, cockpit design. So the idea was to take the original layout, the original scheme of a lot of the parts that we were looking at, and to maintain, but of course upgrading with modern materials and better technology. So, for example, one example could be the rear suspension and hub, that at the end, if you see the old 037 scheme and our actual Evo 37, basically is the same. So with the two dampers aside, and in the center you have the spring. So all the cars basically represent something very, very similar to the previous old one, but just upgraded in every single details. And the taste, of course, made the difference of the cars.
Yeah. And has that meant, because obviously you got the new engine, you've got more power, all that sort of stuff, all the new technology, has the car got quite a bit lighter, or more just kind of like stronger and more powerful?
It is considering we have more power. For example, just the engine has adding the turbo, which is other elements. Then we had some other comfort tools like the air conditioner with the compressor and all the stuff. We are a little more weight. We have more weight than the rally cars. So the rally cars was a little less than a ton. It was 960 kilos, and we have 1,080. So again, we maintain the same mood, but of course with kind of adjustment that in this case give a little weight more to us, but of course more power and more everything.
Yeah, more refinement, everything. You're not in a completely stripped out cage and whatnot. And what, in terms of how the car drives, what were you sort of aiming for? I've heard from a friend of mine, I think came out with you at one point, and he said the car, it seems like it's a car to be driven very hard, and it likes to be driven hard.
By a rally driver, I have to add, because effectively, this was the aim. Try to imagine a driver after 15 years of a 100 career that in all the career was forced to drive fantastic rally cars, but always rally cars that has to respect a rule. So I remember the restrictor of the turbo, because you don't have to have much power, the safety solution, of course, and all the rules that a rally car has to follow. And try to imagine to have a white paper and no restriction. So I was in the position to do everything I would like to do. So to go on all my desire like a rally driver. So we had all the power as much as possible was possible to put in the engine. We had the braking, a super setup, a motorsport ABS. So we had all the super performing tools that we can add to the car. So at the end, the feedback you receive is a sort of a fantastic rally car that you can drive daily. So try to make it.
Yeah, nice. And in terms of, so I guess as a rally driver, so this is something like I hear, like suspension, often on road cars, people go super stiff. And they're kind of like, they don't move at all. I presume this is not how you've gone.
No, we always respect the idea to have a daily use car. Also, if we know very well that our car is not used by no one as daily car, but you have to know that for sure. You have to know that for sure this is a car that has in the DNA the rally, and the rally has very different from what's happening in circuit, because in circuit you have perfect condition, always full grip, you have all the same condition, and so the car has completely set it in different way. And then it was very interesting to think about that in circuit, drivers stay longly in the corners, because when you have to do a long corner in a circuit, you stay for a few seconds in that corner. Normally in rally, you never had a long corner, and you are always fighting with the steering wheels in order to change direction. So the car has to be more reactive and more neutral, because if you lose at the back of the car, you has to be able to oversteer and go out from the corner, So it is a different approach, and all the people that drive our car immediately feel this. And immediately feel that it is another approach, and almost they love it.
And how do you get some of those characteristics? What sort of things do you do to make it able to change direction fast or be really pointable?
Well, first of all, the car is very balanced, because if you see the car naked, so I mean without body, you can see that the layout is very easy. It's very clear. is very balanced because you have the engine, which is longitudinal, and in the back there is the gearbox with the two shafts, and all the frame chassis seems like a Formula One of the 70 when the Formula One was built by tube frame. But this has two seats, so it's very balanced to be driven. And then, of course, the good setting of the setup of the car with the dampers, the braking, balancing, and the way balancing of everything permit to have a very neutral and honest car, exactly as it was the old 037, nominated by Walter Röhrl, the most honest car that he never drove, the most pure. So it's something that we consider very good, and we continued to develop in order to maintain like it was once.
And I know a lot of cars are set up for a bit of high speed kind of understeer, and then maybe a little bit depending on the customers and stuff. Is that your sort of take, or you're like, no, let's have more angle?
No understeer at all. It's very funny to drive the Evo 37 because, as I told you, the DNA of a rally car, you immediately feel, especially in the low speed corners, in the close corner, because the car is very stable and balanced in fast. So if you are in fast, you never have the feeling that the car go out of the lines. But when you are in the slow corner, fighting with the steering wheel to exit fasting, you immediately feel the back that is oversteering, and it's so funny to drive because then you correct the car and you fly from a corner to corner, driving and enjoying a lot. I can guarantee you, like not like a manufacturer, but a former rally driver. I can guarantee you.
Yes. Yeah, totally. And so you had the Evo 37. Which how many have you made so far?
Actually, we just finished last week the car number 21. So we are in the middle of the way of the production of the Evo 37. Consider that we had the 37 limited edition Evo 37. Then we had the Martini 7. So it is a sort of extra special edition to celebrate the 7 titles won by Martini Racing Team.
And then at what point in time did the idea for the Evo 38 come along, and what's the idea behind that car?
It was, again, as previously, an idea of evolution. And we started to think to a question to say to us directly, telling us, what if Lancia at that time didn't stop it to go in the race with the 037 and try to keep this car and just upgrade with the 4-wheel drives and all the stuff that then appears in the rally motorsport world. And so we create the Evo 38 that represent a never-existing car, but a sort of wishes and desire of all the Lancia team that at the time told us that they were in love, of course, of a winning car like the 037, but they were forced by commercial reason by Lancia to skip the car to in a Delta. And so we, again, bring back to the life a sort of unicorn that in the past was not possible to create, in order to, again, create something very cool and driven by the passion that all our team has.
And so the car's got 4-wheel drive, although it has a fancy diff. Is that right?
Yeah, the Evo 38, which actually is in process to be built, has the first prototype, and hopefully we will start to slide in 4-wheel drive on the snow during this winter. So I'm thinking that already in January or almost in February, we will get the car on the snow, and it will be a sort of WRC rally cars, but of course with street legal characteristic.
Yeah. Nice. And I presume, I'm gathering so far that you like a little bit of oversteer. So this setup is going to be biased, or will it be adjustable so that you can have lots of oversteer or less for more speed?
Yeah. We think, of course, again, to create a rally car that has to be adjustable for the different surface and different itinerary that can be driven. And basically, we have many regulation in order of the setup, in order also to elevate the car, like a lifter that permit us to drive the car in a more rough way, or to keep it very low with the super grippy condition, and also to use a different position of the differential that permit to balance the car more rear end drive, or more front wheel drive. So it will be a sort of a maximum 50-50, so four-wheel drives total in a square, or being more rear wheel drives to enjoy full and sliding more again in oversteering.
Oh, interesting. So yeah, very much designed for some gravel and some tarmac and that. How high are you going to go? Not like Dakar sand.
No, not so much. We have basically 50 millimeters, 5 centimeters of increasing in order to elevate the car. That is a good balance in order to drive, for example, on the ice, on the snow, or even in a easy gravel road.
Yeah, quite fun, like winter driving. That sounds. They all sound like a lot of fun. And then I was having a look on your website, and I've seen that I don't know how far down this project is. Also, this podcast is going to come out in like February, I think. So if you want to tell me more, you can tell me more. The K39. Is this Pikes Peak? Where did this project come from, and where are we sort of at?
Well, the project came out from madness, so it was again come out from a true passion, and of course the callback we have from the motorsport, because all the team needs to come back to feel the smell of the racing tires, the look at the timing and have a challenge to go on with that. And of course, this is a way in order to celebrate again another iconic car, which was the Lancia Beta Monte Carlo Turbo. And exactly again, this car came out in order to create a new car that permit us as Chimera to come back to the motorsport. And considering the good relationship we have in the US and all the passion that we find there, we aim to go to the Pikes Peak, which is an iconic race, having the challenge to come back and trying to look at what a thermic engine, maybe combined with other solution, why not hybrid, can challenge against what we effectively don't like so much in Chimera as the electric engine. So we accepted to think about a big romantic challenge to come back the record on the thermic engine instead of the electric engine that now they have. I don't think that we will be at the starting line already in 2025, because we understood that the project is quite, but we will do already in 2025 some road to Pikes Peak, having some participation in other kind of events, having a car that could participate for sure, as once Lancia Beta Monte Carlo did in circuit again. We can do something in that kind of world. And then, of course, the aim is the climb hill and the top of the mountain to achieve our challenge.
Yeah. And what are you, in terms of like sort of the pace, are you aiming for like fastest naturally, or not naturally aspirated, but fastest ICE, or just quick, but cool?
Well, when you will ask to a racing driver what is his aim, his target. He will be very always diplomatic. We are here to go very well, and we are trying, of course. But at the end, is the top of the position that you aim and to be the best of the best of the best.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm interested in what solutions you're going to go for, and how you're going to go about this. So it will be cool. Cool to see. Along this journey of building these cars, what have been some of the most challenging aspects that you maybe didn't expect, or to manufacture a car versus working on a car or driving a car? What have been some of those?
Well, absolutely, the most challenging aspect to become a manufacturer and to create something different like a car, that it is a very big organism of a lot of components and works activity to do. Yeah, the big challenge is to manage people, because creating the group, creating the team, and find the right people, find the motivation of all the group, and always keeping high the hype of all of them is for sure the most biggest challenge you can find. And more of that, I say that we are Italians, we are crazy people, and always is not easy to put together Italians that are in the characteristic of great creativity, but sometimes we also need to be focused, because sometimes we need to be more German style, German mind. And so try to imagine that I have to be the manager of all this group of people that all want to say something, create something, which is huge. But sometimes you have to stop them and say, guys, we have to do this direction. It is challenging, I can tell you, but it's super good.
Less sliding, more development.
That's right.
And what about anything that stands out that's been the most satisfying or fun experience along the way?
Maybe considering my previous life as a racing driver and this life of discovering to build the cars and creating a brand, automotive brand, I can tell you that effectively you are always in a sort of roller coaster, in the both experience I had in my life, like rally drivers or car manufacturer, because effectively the emotion that you feel when you are in the low part of the problems, all the aspect that you are not able sometimes to solve, and you have to find work hard, and then the moment in which you are in up, when you have satisfaction to see the car working good, the happiness of the people, the customer, and the feedback, the good feedback you receive, is something very similar to my previous life that you had when you go to a race and the result is not so good, so you retire, and then you find the winning. And so this is something that at the end change your mood, and in my opinion, let feel you alive,
Yeah. And do you have a favorite bit of development or design on the car that you're like, I'm really happy with how we did that?
I always talk with my guys that when we have to share the ideas and share the design and share what we want to do, I always try to share with them my aim to be true, to be consistent, to be coherent every time. So I never like when we design something, or when I saw something that is designed to be designed. Before all, I really like when there is the functionality that is correctly well done. And then, of course, the design is used by give a nice aspect to the functionality of a part. I think that these give the most incredible design to an object, and for sure, the example that we have in cars is huge.
Yeah. Functionality. It's about the driving, and then as long as it looks nice, that's cool. And with the gear shift, were you I believe it's a H pattern. Is that right? Or is it sequential?
Is
Maybe
is
different on the different ones.
manual? No, is on the Evo 37, but also on the Evo 38. We have 6-speed manual gearboxes. And again, if you look at the central shifter of the gearbox we have, you will find again a memories of the old 037 with a sort of cup that contain the shift, and this permit to again create a bridge of design between the old cars and the new cars that we designed.
Nice. And I guess that's reason enough. You weren't tempted to go bang sequential.
It's something that maybe we will do in following models. Actually, we still love to have a 80s car inspired, in which the gearbox manual was something very strong and cool.
Maybe a big handbrake?
On the Evo 38, you will find it. On the Evo 38, finally you will find it. Because with the Evo 37 to play, as I told you before, you can just play with the throttle and you easily go oversteering. With 4-wheel drives, you will find a big handbrake.
And then disconnect. Right. Well, I mean, they sound a lot of fun. And everyone I know that's been in one has come out and gone, that was an experience. Like, I get the impression, they're like, you've driven that car.
Well, after so many years, I think is the minimum that I can find. So many kilometers I did in my special stage. So hopefully I learned something. Yeah. But the experience is the most important thing. At the end, life is more important being instead to have. At the end, if you are, it's better than what you have. And I truly believe in that. And at the end, the life is the amount of the emotion you felt during it. And so I think that what in Chimera we effectively like is to permit to the people and by ourselves or the people that join us in order to be customer fun or just passionate of our brand to live true emotion and live something different that we can give with our cars and with our passion.
Nice. Right. Well, I normally wrap these up with 5 questions. The first question is, do you have a most memorable driving trip or journey?
I can reply you that the most memorable journey that I did is my entire life. I mean, it's a sort of the entire group of road that represent the best rally I ever did. So this is something that I can resume in a poetic way.
I like that. If you could only drive one sports car for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Well, I will reply you with a citation of one of my favorite men ever existing, which was Enzo Ferrari. He always told which is the best car that you ever drive, and he always replied the following one. So the following one we will build.
Yeah. What do you think is the most undervalued car at the moment? What do you think should be worth more?
This is a very interesting question. I think that there will be a comeback from a lot of Japanese car, because I think actually the Japanese car are not so estimated like all the other that are most iconic, more trading like the Porsche or the Ferraris, But the Japanese car in the future will be very respected, especially the most iconics that were built once.
Yeah, all the ones you could play in PlayStation games and all those ones that like a certain generation like.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely. What is the most interesting car to you at the moment?
The most, the car that if you tell me, Luca, just one car. You can just have one car. I have to reply you with the 3 character F40. F40. So
nice.
I think it was the top of the top.
It has a lot of, I guess, some similarities with the cars that you make in terms of like how they seem to drive. I had an F40 for 5 years.
Wow, you're a lucky boy.
It's fun. It's fun. Yeah, I am. It's an awesome thing.
Yeah, I think it's brutal. And effectively, our car was driven by a very good journalist of Top Gear. And at the end, he told me, look, this is the most similar car that I driven since I was driven F40. It was the best congratulation that I can receive.
Oh, yeah. You're like, yes.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. Right. Final question. 5-car garage, unlimited value, and it has to sort of fit into your life. So you need a daily or something like that.
Well, F40 first on the podium is the first one. Lancia Stratos, because I have a huge connection with Lancia Stratos through my father. Porsche Carrera GT, that resume me all the Porsche cars in that. Porsche 917, which is a huge car in that era. And then I can close with iconic Italian symbol, which is the old Fiat 500. So completely different car in order to be disruptive of the previous 4.
Yeah. I like it. And it's interesting. All of the Italian guests I've had, a lot of them, I don't think I've had a Fiat 500, but a lot of people like Pandas. Oh
yeah, Panda is Italian. It's a symbol of something very essential, very functionality, but in a sort of way, very strong, and that surprise you, because at the end represents something that is very concrete and with a good heart.
Yeah, that's good. Right, well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast. It was great to chat.
Thank you to you, Sam, and all the guys listening us.